Welcome to today's session. I'm Shefta from NSOffice, and today we are discussing one of the biggest shifts happening in the enterprise technology. For years, the focus has been on adopting AI tools and experimenting with new models. But the real transformation is happening now, where AI is no longer an add on, but it's becoming embedded in the way businesses operate, make decisions, and drive outcomes. And today, we are discussing that. But before we dive in, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Ms. Trupti, our Chief AI Officer at NSOffice. She's been the forefront in helping enterprises move beyond AI experimentation to real business transformation. If you've been wondering what it really takes to build an AI-first enterprise, you are in the right session. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Trupti. Hey, Trupti. Hi, welcome. It's great to have you with us today. So how have you been?
Hi, Shefta. I've been doing well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excited to be having this conversation with you, Shefta. Yes.
Likewise. Okay, so before we jump in the serious discussion, I have a quick icebreaker question for you.
Okay.
Since you've been in the industry, what excites you most about the current evolution of AI?
Okay. That's an amazing question. Thanks for that, Shefta. What excites me the most? Okay, couple of things. I think the evolution and the speed at which we've seen the evolution happen, both of it, like just for example, yesterday I was reading up on something which told me that if we take a look at the speed and the frequency at which AI models have been released in the market, and if we run a predictive score on that particular one, somewhere by December this year, December 2026 or Jan 2027, we reach a space which is going to be one new frontier model every single day being released. That's the speed at which we've seen the changes happening to the frontier model world and the LLM world, which is what has been at the forefront of the AI. Of course, there are many other components to AI that we talk about, but this kind of happens to be the most in demand and in our face, because obviously it is what touches our lives the most, right? So I think, yes, the speed at which the evolution is happening and the scale at which the impact is being seen across every single aspect of our lives, be it business, be it manufacturing, be it services, be it the way we interact with others and the way we do our own work. Every single aspect of our life is what we're seeing getting impacted by this technology pace. And I think that is kind of really what excites me. And I think the other thing, Shefta, that I definitely find very, very exciting is to the extent of impact that this technology has done to us, because we all keep talking about, we had industrial revolution before this, we had so many new things that got, technology kept evolving over the last couple of decades also, right? So why is AI different? I think fundamentally in my head, there are two reasons. One, the pace and the impact of the technology changes that we're seeing. And the second most and very, very critical, change or piece of thought process that I always have is the capability of this technology to do good, and at the same time, the capability of this technology to do harm. The thresholds of both of them are very different, right? It's kind of slightly asymmetric, and that I think is very, very exciting, because that also puts tremendous amount of responsibility on people like us who are in this field of building AI to do it the right way, and to make sure that we talk more and more about the risks and how we keep it in check, so that the ultimate aim of AI, which is which is goodness for greater good, build it for greater good, is what finally becomes the output. I think so. Yeah. So these are a couple of things that really get me excited about whenever we talk about the whole AI world and how things are changing.
That was really interesting. Basis what you've said, I have a follow-up question on to that.
Sure.
Since every week or so, a new frontier model or new models are dropping in, how do you maintain the governance, the AI, maybe for enterprises? What does ROI and governance mean in terms of that?
Right. Absolutely. Again, a very, very valid question, Shefta. Like we keep saying, right? Yes, there is tremendous amount of change. The pace of technology upgrade is so high that that enterprises who want to adopt AI are more and more finding it difficult to keep up with the pace of the technology change, because organizations have their own processes through which they will evaluate something before they actually embrace the changes, right? What happens is, until and unless I'm very sure of what I am involving into my environment ecosystem, it's very, very difficult to say that, this is the right decision or not. And having said that, how do we do this evaluation? Because by the time I'm done with my evaluation, understanding, put out an RFP, get a responses from the vendor, so on and so forth, by that time you've already seen a couple of more new models come in or some technology change, which has made everything else redundant, which was there a couple of weeks ago or months ago, right? So essentially what the thought process that we're seeing is, it's not really the models which is going to give us that additional edge, because models is now raw intelligence, and that is something that is going to be soon becoming a table stake, and that's going to be available for everybody. What essentially is going to be the differentiator is, one, how am I orchestrating this raw intelligence to convert it into what really works for my organization? And that is, according to me, the critical and the key differentiator between how everybody who does AI and between a conscious organization who's doing AI the right way, by making sure that they're not really banking on models, but going to a next level of intelligence, which is going to be consuming these models, but building this intelligence becomes extremely critical, because that's where everything is going to be, that's where everything is going to converge, and then build the outcomes or the economic benefits that we talk about, which AI essentially gives to an organization.
Okay, some pretty relevant points you mentioned about governance. For that, I just thought, if AI is becoming this powerful, how can enterprises leverage this particular scene to be better, or to drive better business impact? So, yeah.
Right. I think, Shefta, one essential point that we spoke about is the risks involved, and of course how governance is becoming critically more and more important because of the plethora of options available, right? And the fact that I have to be able to explain what AI I'm using and why, and that each of the output that my AI is giving is basis the right logic and not some kind of hallucination that is happening at the back end, right? Having said this, what becomes extremely critical for an organization is that intelligence layer that we just spoke about, where we're consuming the raw intelligence which is coming from the LLMs, and building the organization context. Now, why does this become important, right? See, because all the raw intelligence that is available in the market through LLMs and through all the other frontier models is essentially intelligence which is generic, which is global. Now, that is not something that understands you as an organization or you as a segment of the clientele, and what is that the organization specifically aspires to meet or where it wants to be, right? I mean, slowly and steadily, where we are in the world today, where we're talking about organization singularity, I'm sure we've heard about this conversation where we're talking about singularity, where AI becomes so much better that it starts improving on its own without even human intervention, right? So think about it from the perspective that we are having conversations around organizational singularity, wherein we deploy solutions for an organization, wherein the solutions themselves figure out how to get better and better. And what are they trying to achieve? They're trying to achieve the outcome that the organization has identified for itself. And that's where the whole, that's where the importance of the whole entire context engineering piece that we talk about, which is way about the regular prompt engineering that we do. Here I'm saying, me as an organization, the AI should know what I do, what I want to aspire to, and how is that I want to walk that path to get where I want to be as an organization. And that's the critical differentiator that we're seeing, Shefta, which is what is going to put organizations on a fast track to making the most out of AI.
That's amazing. I think that's how the entire landscape is shifting towards, from single models to an enterprise platform. So before we dive deeper, let's talk something that you've emphasized again, that's the enterprise context, what it is and why it is becoming so important. For example, how can any organization pull that particular context from within the enterprises or systems? So if you could just highlight that.
Yeah. Sure. Context, Shefta, is a very, very simply put, it's a combination of all enterprise knowledge, right? And this when I talk about combination of enterprise knowledge, we're talking about all the existing systems of record, systems of knowledge within an organization. Think of an ERP, CRM, SharePoint, Teams, Outlook, documents, emails, policies, decisions that have been taken in an organization, so on and so forth, right? Every single piece of information which has led to certain actions and decisions being taken in an organization. Let's I mean, to maybe simplify it furthermore, think about it like organization context is something that we learn completely about an organization from the system of records. If I extrapolate it to an individual like me, if I want somebody to have a context of what I am doing, the understanding is obviously they know where I work, what I do, what is my job profile, what is that I like, what is that I don't like, so on and so forth. So every single response that is given is cognizant of the fact that what do I want as an individual, right? So think about this, extrapolate this to an organization. So every single activity by every single individual within an organization that is being performed, each one of that has a layer of what is that the organization is expecting from them. What are the KRAs? What are the metrics? What is the outcome that the organization is expecting from each of the individuals? Now, all of this gets baked into the AI and the outcome that the AI is going to give. And hence, it becomes a very, very specific responses and a very specific AI to that particular organization. So it's no longer a generic, intelligence which AI has learned over millions and millions of data points that it has seen, globally. It is going to be a very, very specific answer to your organization, your context, and your output that you're expecting. And that is the whole crux of where we say it's the enterprise context that we're building.
Amazing. That's a great point, and that makes me think naturally that after an organization adopts such enterprise context, how would a natural day for any employee look like in an organization once they have the context set with them? So how would it be for an employee?
Interesting. Again, I think one thing I think, Shefta, that I think I'd love to bring to the forefront here is, where is all this context leading to? What is all this context leading to, right? Essentially, I'm saying everything that I ask, I'm going to be getting it very specific to my organization, to my role, to the department that I play. Now, all of this is culminating into something what we call as the enterprise brain, right? And this enterprise brain is nothing but actually just like a human brain, works on signals which the various components of the body and the mind keep giving the brain. Similarly, what we're saying is every single signal that is done in an organization, be it a prompt, be it an action, be it a workflow that is triggered, or be it a search for a particular data set that is being done, all of this is going to feed into the organization brain and is going to help the organization understand who's doing what and how do we improve this. The fundamental idea being, I make everybody smarter, I make everybody faster, and I make everybody more efficient, which drastically reduces the turnaround time for my strategic decision making, as well as improving productivity, right? So that's essentially the organization brain that we're talking about on the basis of the context. Now, how does this impact me as an individual, or how does this impact me as a, let's say I'm a CEO or a CTO of a company, and how do things change for me? Imagine a scenario wherein every single fragmented piece of information that I need to work on a day-to-day basis has been put together, has been collated, and is presented to me in the way that is easier to digest, right? So things like these, wherein today what we're doing is we are made answerable to the different fragmented data sources that we have within an organization. The way the future looks is the systems are going to be answerable to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my chat, I'm going to go to my ask bar, start asking questions saying that, hey, give me my sales numbers, give me my inventory numbers, what are the orders that I need to fulfill, or what is the red flag that I need to be worried about when it comes to my manufacturing team, so on and so forth. And what happens is it's the systems which are going to work at the back end, because they understand the context from which I'm asking, and they will give out all of these answers to me. So the decision making is what we are going to be making very, very fast, efficient. And then that's the value add that we bring as the human in the loops. And that's the fundamental change that we're looking at, Shefta. Instead of me behaving or me doing my work basis how a system is structured, my systems are now going to be structured to make sure that they support me in my day-to-day activities. And that's the fundamental flip that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think the points that you mentioned just made me think that you've just flipped the entire enterprise,
Yes.
How it used to run back then and now how it is currently. Brain. I'm just interested in thinking about the product and everything that you're building at NSOffice, what principles you were working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of things, Shefta, that we've been very, very clear about right from the day one that this platform has been designed and built, right? like we call it the fundamentals and the scaffolding on which the entire platform thought process has been built on, right? Couple of things, like we spoke in the very beginning, we spoke about how the models, there's been a plethora of options within models that we keep seeing every week, right? So essentially a very, very clear thought process that we would have is my organization AI is never ever going to be locked to one particular model. There's geopolitics happening, there is so many new technologies that is happening, there are governments fighting wars trying to control particular models but particular resources and so on and so forth, right? And hence it's extremely critical for us to make sure that whenever whatever I build is not locked in with any single module or any single intelligence provider. So that becomes my first important pieces of which the entire platform or the product is being designed. Secondly, my enterprise AI has to be sovereign. I cannot have the reins of my intelligence being given to somebody else who can, at the flip of a switch, say, you don't have access to it tomorrow, right? Think about it. If my entire intelligence, I've spent time, effort, energy building something like that, and tomorrow, due to some kind of political or, geopolitical incidences, I'm told you no longer have access to that intelligence. That would be such a huge risk to be playing with, right?
Absolutely.
And hence we say enterprise AI has to be sovereign. I have to have control over the brain that I'm building. I have to have control over the intelligence that I'm building and training, and it has to be done my way and it has to be in my control, right? That's how we define the sovereignty and, of course, the geographical sovereignty that we talk about. Thirdly, enterprise knowledge should be instantly accessible. The whole flip thing that we spoke about, right?
Yes.
Why would I have to go to 10 different systems and find my own organization context and information? How about I give you one single bar, you start asking questions, and it automatically goes to all those systems and pulls out that information for you? That's essentially what we're saying about democratizing or making instantly accessible the enterprise knowledge that we have with us. Again, something that we just spoke, every organization deserves its own brain. It can't be a brain which I have borrowed or which I have replicated from somewhere, right? It has to be my own. It has to be trained on my data and on the ways and means that I want to, which I hold close to me, because those are the outcomes that I want to meet. Again, we just spoke about this also, the way we work. I want my systems to be answerable to me and not the other way around. I shouldn't be at the mercy of my systems. My systems should answer the way I expect them to answer. So that's another very, very fundamental point for us to keep in mind, and hence the whole flip thing that we spoke about.
Correct.
And I think the most important over and above all of this is that AI just cannot be providing me theory or just answers. It has to be able to execute tasks for me. It has to be able to show me outcomes. And that's essentially also one of the very, very important key points for us, where we're saying my AI not just searches information, collates it together, gives you the intelligence layer, but ultimately results in outputs and outcomes bases all of this information. And that kind of completes the story for us on the platform.
Now, this is, I think, the new age platform that was much needed in the market, and would, love to see an entire demo. Maybe in the next webinar or a session, we can do that. Before we sum up, I just have a last question, Trupti.
Sure.
If you would have 1 minute to explain what NSOffice is to a C-suite or a CEO, what would you say?
Okay. Essentially, network science, NSOffice is an enterprise AI platform where employees can search across the web and the entire organization every single piece of information that they would need to run the outcome and the jobs that they are expected to perform. Right? And how do we do this? We build the organization context, we build your organization brain based on the specific organization information and not generic knowledge. And most importantly, like I said, cover all of this with not just information. We are also taking a next step of saying we can trigger actions based on the information. So it is just knowing, synthesizing that information, and then taking actionable outcomes out of those information. That's the whole suite of platform that I would say NSOffice.AI is.
Amazing. Thank you. That was really helpful and much needed. Once again, thank you, Trupti. That was honestly a really insightful session. I think you broke down some pretty complex ideas in ways that's easier to understand. And I'm sure our audience who's going to watch this has a lot to take back from today's session. And I really appreciate you taking time to join us and share your experience. It was fun having you with us. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so much.